Hey everybody, welcome to Crack Pack Tuesday, number 45 on the Mana Leak. I'm John, as always, and we've got ourselves some more Oath of the Gatewatch. We went from having a terrible pack 2 weeks ago to having a decent pack with Oblivion Strike last week. This week, maybe we'll get a good rare, maybe we won't get an Oath or a Call. I'm sure we'll get something else terrible instead. But we're going to open this pack, see what's inside it, and see what we would take pack one, pick one if this was a draft. Up first, we've got ourselves an Ancient Crab. 1 blue for a 1/5 creature crab. That is all she wrote. It's fine out of the sideboard if you're super controlling. It's maybe even okay if you're super controlling in the main board, but you don't want to go out of your way to pick this. You don't want to, actually take this. You want to take this because you're in blue and it's the only card in the pack, and then begrudgingly put it in, or maybe put it in if you're the right kind of deck. But Ancient Crab, totally not first pick. Next up, we've got Alpha Protector, 2 and a white for a creature, human, soldier, ally. It's a 1/4 with vigilance. I remember people being so high on this during the set review. Everybody saying, well, if you support it 17 times, it'll be amazing, and it taps for cohort, and it does all this other stuff. No, it's just a 1/4 vigilance that maybe gets you a rally trigger and gets in for some damage here or there. It's a good blocker. It's fine. I'll play it in white decks. I'm not excited by it, though. It's just fine. You take this mid to late pack, and that's about where it stands. Please ignore the camera suddenly shaking like crazy there for a second. Next up, we have McIntee Aeronaut. That's 1 and a white for a creature, core, scout, ally. It's a 1/3 flyer. It's not Shadow Glider. I have to remind myself that all the time. There are still times where this is in my draft pool or in my sealed pools, and I look at it and I say, yeah, that goes in the deck. Wait, no. No, it doesn't. It's a 1/3 flyer. This is something you probably want to bring out of the sideboard when you discover that you're not quite the beatdown deck that you thought you were compared to your opponents. Main decking this just generally isn't something I want to do. It is an ally, so it does have some cohort and rally synergies there, but there are significantly better choices out there. Next up, we have a Witness the End. Witness the End is 3 and a black for a sorcery, devoid. Target opponent exiles 2 cards from his or her hand and loses 2 life. This is fine. It's a way to enable processing. It's mind rot, which is always just fine in limited, better in sealed than it is in draft, but still fine. And an extra 2 life tacked onto it for that extra mana, so it's okay. I don't go out of my way to play this, but as a 23rd card, I'll give it a go, especially if I'm a little bit more controlling. Out of the sideboard, I might play this as well if I find that my opponent has a lot of spells and I want to make sure to get them out of hand, or if I in any way think that I can cripple my opponent's hand. But generally, this sits in the sideboard. Not a high pick, and certainly not a first pick. Next up, we have Netcaster Spider. Netcaster Spider is 2 and a green for a creature spider with reach. It's a 2/3. Whenever Netcaster Spider blocks a creature with flying, Netcaster Spider gets +2/+0 until end of turn. Super good. Super good. I like this guy quite a bit. It stonewalls flying decks. I've been on the other side of this with a blue-white Flyers deck and just been able to do basically nothing because they had a Netcaster Spider down. Very, very solid card. Does a lot of work. It did a lot of work the first time around in M15, I want to say. Maybe M14. No, I think it was M15. Totally fine card. Probably first pickable in some very weak packs, but, remember the green tax. The green tax being that if you play green, you're probably going to lose. Yeah, poor green. Next up, we have Kozlak Shrieker. Kozlak Shrieker is 2 and a black for a creature Eldrazi drone. It's a 3/2. It has devoid. And for a colorless, you can have Kozlak Shrieker get +1/+0 and gain menace until end of turn. Becoming a 4/2 with menace is really good. Becoming a 5/2 if you can with menace is even better. Pretty weak on the back end. A reality hemorrhage kills this. I guess double Spark Mage's Gambit would kill it. There's a number of ways to kill this pretty easily, but it is a nice aggressive creature. I like this in kind of black-red aggro, devoid aggro. Fine enough card, not first pickable, but totally includable if you're in any sort of slightly aggressive black deck. There's the card that has been trying to reveal itself several times when the cards were spinning. Spawnbinder Mage. Spawnbinder Mage is a 3 and a white creature, human, wizard, ally. It's a 2/4. It has cohort, so tap an untapped ally you control. Tap target creature. It's a tapper. It's an expensive tapper. You have to tap 2 creatures to tap something down, which is a lot worse than Blinding Drone, for example. But it's fine enough if you're a little bit more controlling, which is not something you normally are in white. It is a 2/4, which means that it blocks really well, so you can confidently keep this home as a blocker and then use it and something else to tap things down. But you do need to be in the right kind of deck. I think this actually has a little bit of a home in blue-white flyers as kind of a thing to hold back and tap things down just to make sure that you get your flyers through. But I don't think it's a high pick, and I don't think it's an auto include. I will cut this somewhat regularly. It's fine, but it's not quite a first pick material. Next up, we have a Vampire Envoy. Vampire Envoy is 2 and a black for a creature, vampire, cleric, ally. It's a 1/4. It has flying. Whenever Vampire Envoy becomes tapped, you gain a life. Totally fine. Blocks super well. It attacks fine enough. You get a 2-point life swing because you gain a life and they ideally lose a life by taking a damage. It has ally and it blocks really well, so it does have synergy with cohort. It's fine. It's not first pickable. It would have to be a terrible pack for me to first pick it. Next up, we have Reality Hemorrhage. Reality Hemorrhage is 1 and a red for an instant devoid. Reality Hemorrhage deals 2 damage to target creature or player. It's shock. It's shock for twice the cost, which is still pretty darn good. Kills a ton of stuff in the format. Kills, I think, all the creatures we've seen so far except for the X4s. Oh, no, never mind. Actually, it kills nothing that we've seen yet except for the Shrieker, because everything else was 1/4s and 1/5s and 2/3s. But it does, trust me, kill a lot in the format. It also does 2 damage to your opponent's face, which is super solid. It's instant speed. It's shock for twice the cost, which is still totally playable. Next up, I think the final uncommon is Unknown Shores. It's a land. Tap to add a colorless mana to your mana pool. Pay 1 and tap it to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Another Strictly Better Wastes. This is the card that you want if you are in colorless. I think Holdout Settlement is better than this, but it's still totally fine. You can filter your mana, you can fix your mana, you can have the colorless mana. Tons of utility to it. You would never first pick it, but you would pick it pretty highly when you start to realize that you need those colorless sources. The first uncommon we have is Relief Captain, 2 white for a creature, core, knight, ally. It's a 3/2. When it enters the battlefield, support 3. Support 3 is pretty darn good. That is a lot of support for only 4 mana, especially attached to a 3/2. If you can get the full support, this thing is incredibly good. Even partial support, this thing is still pretty darn solid. Probably first pickable, I would think. The double white's a little bit of a pain, but still totally fine. It's a nice aggressive card, especially if you're going wide, which I love to do with white. Next up, we have Reaver Drone. Reaver Drone is a single black for a creature Eldrazi drone. It's a 2/1, has Devoid, and at the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life unless you control another colorless creature, which you probably do if you're playing black, and preferably black-red or even full-on Grixis. Really nice aggressive creature. Not really first pickable, though. This is something you want to take a little bit later, pick 3, pick 4, pick 5, maybe a higher pick in pack 2 when you know you're black and black-red or Grixis, but a solid card all around, and generally an auto-include in any sort of aggressive deck. You just wouldn't include it in a blue-black deck, for example. Next up, we have Step Glider. Step Glider is 4 and a white for a creature elemental. It's an elemental? It's not a bird at all. It's like a rock bird. It's a 2/4. It has flying. It has vigilance. For 1 and a white, target creature with a +1/+1 counter on it gains flying and vigilance until end of turn. I've never used that ability, ever. I've played this card a few times. I play it as a 2/4 flying vigilance, which is fine. 5 mana is slightly expensive, but otherwise it's fine. If you can actually use the ability, I'm sure it's great, but I've never had the opportunity to use the ability. I'm sure it's fine. I don't quite think this is first pickable, though. 5 mana is a lot, but it is fine. Finally, our rare is Reality Smasher. Reality Smasher is 4 and a colorless for a creature Eldrazi. It's a 5/5. It has trample. It has haste. And when it becomes the target of a spell an opponent controls, counter that spell unless its controller discards a card. Really good card. I believe it's also worth some amount of money, like above $5. So you might take it just for that reason. But it's colorless, which means that it keeps you totally open. This can go in any deck that has colorless mana available on Unknown Shores, Waste, Cultivator Drones, etc. It's a 5/5 trample haste for 5, which is just incredible as is. Like, that is super efficient. And the fact that your opponent's going to have to discard a card in addition to playing a removal spell is really good. Reality Smasher is just, super, super, super good. No foil, elemental token. Someday we'll get an expedition. Someday. So I'm looking at Reality Smasher. I'm looking at Relief Captain, and I'm looking at Reality Hemorrhage. Yeah, I think this is an easy pick, even if we weren't going for value. It's Reality Smasher. Reality Hemorrhage is a little bit too underpowered compared to something like Smasher. It would have been the first pick if the rare was any weaker, I believe. Relief Captain is also just fine, but not better than removal. But Reality Smasher is just so super efficient. It keeps us totally open. Plus, it's got some value attached to it. So I'm pretty okay first picking Reality Smasher. Let me know what you have taken. Would you have taken the Smasher, the Hemorrhage, the Captain, or something else? Let me know in the comments down below. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you can find me on Twitter at @TheManaLeak. That's L-E-E-K, like the vegetable, not the card. And you can also find me on Facebook at facebook.com/TheManaLeak. You've already found me here on YouTube. You've got the comment section down below. Please make use of that. And if you enjoy my videos, please click the like button and the subscribe button so that you can keep up to date on all the latest Track Pack Tuesdays, Wacky Wednesdays, Spiky Saturdays, Top 10 Thursdays, and all the other videos that pop up here and or there. But as always, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you all next time.